Have you ever wondered how a country can go from being completely isolated, using samurai swords and living in a feudal system, to a global industrial power in less than a lifetime? It sounds like the plot of a science fiction novel, but it's the true story of Japan during the Meiji Restoration. In just over 40 years, from 1868 to 1912, Japan underwent one of the most astonishing transformations in human history. How did they pull off this incredible feat? Stick around, because we are about to dive into the story of a nation that decided to change its destiny. Before 1868, Japan was a place locked in time. The country was under the rule of the Tokugawa shogunate, a military government that had enforced a strict policy of isolation known as sakoku for over 200 years. The society was rigidly structured, with the samurai warrior class at the top, followed by farmers, artisans, and merchants. They had limited contact with the outside world, primarily through a small Dutch trading post in Nagasaki. Life was governed by tradition, and change was slow, almost non-existent. Imagine a world without railways, telegraphs, or modern factories, a world still reliant on agriculture and feudal loyalties. This was the Japan that the West encountered in the mid-19th century. The catalyst for change arrived in 1853 in the form of black-hulled steamships. American Commodore Matthew Perry sailed into Edo Bay with a clear message: "Open your country for trade, or face the consequences." Perry's advanced naval technology was a shocking wake-up call for Japan. The shogunate, realizing its military was no match for the Western powers, reluctantly signed treaties that were deeply unfavorable to Japan. This humiliation sparked a powerful wave of nationalism and a fierce debate within the country. Many felt that the shogun had failed to protect Japan's sovereignty. A new slogan began to spread: "Sono Joi," which means revere the emperor, expel the barbarians. The stage was set for a revolution, not just of government, but of an entire society. This internal turmoil culminated in 1868 with the Boshin War, a brief but decisive civil war. Forces loyal to the young Emperor Meiji overthrew the Tokugawa shogunate, effectively ending 700 years of military rule and restoring direct imperial power. But this wasn't about going back to the past. The new Meiji leaders were pragmatic revolutionaries. They understood that to resist the West, they couldn't simply expel the barbarians. Instead, they had to learn from them, adopt their strengths, and beat them at their own game. This marked the beginning of the Meiji Restoration, an era of radical, top-down modernization. The new government's mission was clear, summed up in their slogan, Fukoku Kyohei, meaning enrich the country, strengthen the military. They were about to embark on a sprint to catch up with centuries of Western progress. One of the first and most crucial pillars of this transformation was education. The Meiji leaders knew that a modern nation needed a modern mind. They looked at the educational systems of the West and saw the foundation of industrial and military power. In 1871, the Ministry of Education was established, and just a year later, a new law made elementary education compulsory for all children, regardless of their social class or gender. This was revolutionary. For the first time, the children of farmers and merchants were learning to read and write alongside the children of former samurai. The curriculum was standardized and infused with Western science, mathematics, and geography, but it also heavily emphasized loyalty to the emperor and the nation. This created a generation of literate, skilled, and deeply patriotic citizens, ready to build and serve the new Japan. Simultaneously, Japan embarked on a massive project to import and adapt Western technology. The government recognized that industrial strength was the backbone of a powerful nation. They sent delegations, like the famous Iwakura mission, on world tours to study everything from factories and railways to political systems and banking. These scholars and officials returned with invaluable knowledge. The government then took the lead in building the first modern infrastructure. They funded the construction of Japan's first railway line, connecting Tokyo and Yokohama in 1872. They established telegraph lines that crisscrossed the country, shrinking distances and speeding up communication. They built model factories for silk, cement, and glass, then sold them to private entrepreneurs once they became profitable, kickstarting a vibrant private sector. This state-led industrialization, focused on strategic industries, was key to Japan's rapid economic growth. Of course, enrich the country was only half of the slogan. Strengthen the military was the other equally important goal. The Meiji government knew that to revise the unequal treaties and be seen as an equal on the world stage, they needed a military that could command respect. They dismantled the old samurai class system, which was a huge social upheaval. In 1873, they introduced a conscription law, creating a modern Western-style army based on the Prussian model, with soldiers drafted from the general population. The samurai lost their exclusive right to bear arms, and their stipends were eventually eliminated. For the Navy, they looked to the best in the world, Britain's Royal Navy. They purchased warships from Britain and hired British advisors to train their officers. This new military wasn't just about defense, it was a symbol of Japan's new status and a tool to project its growing power. This period of intense change wasn't without its challenges. The rapid abolition of the feudal class system caused widespread discontent, especially among the former samurai who had lost their status and income. This tension erupted in several rebellions, most famously the Satsuma Rebellion of 1877, led by the legendary Saigo Takamori, often called the Last Samurai. Saigo and his traditionalist warriors fought bravely, but they were ultimately defeated by the government's new conscript army, equipped with modern rifles and artillery. The victory was a powerful and symbolic moment. It proved that the new, modern Japan had irrevocably triumphed over the old, feudal Japan. It cemented the government's authority and cleared the way for even more aggressive modernization. By the turn of the 20th century, the results were undeniable. In less than 4 decades, Japan had transformed. It had a written constitution, a functioning parliament, a modern banking system, and a booming industrial economy. Its new military proved its strength in 2 major conflicts. First, in the Sino-Japanese War of 1894–95, Japan defeated its much larger neighbor, China, gaining control of Taiwan and a foothold in Korea. Then, in the Russo-Japanese War of 1904–05, Japan achieved a stunning victory over a major European power, Russia. This was a world-shaking event. For the first time in modern history, an Asian nation had defeated a Western empire in a full-scale war. Japan had not only caught up, but it had arrived as a new global power. So, how did Japan do it? How did it modernize faster than any other country in history? It was a unique combination of factors. They had a powerful sense of national crisis and unity, driven by the threat of Western colonization. They had a centralized, pragmatic leadership willing to make radical and sometimes ruthless decisions. Crucially, they adopted a philosophy of wakon yosai, Japanese spirit, Western techniques. They selectively borrowed Western technology, institutions, and ideas, but they adapted them to fit their own culture and values, always keeping the core of their Japanese identity intact. They didn't just copy the West, they synthesized its strengths with their own. This blend of ambition, pragmatism, and cultural confidence allowed Japan to achieve in 40 years what took other nations centuries. It is a powerful story of national transformation that continues to inspire and fascinate us to this day. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. It's a truly incredible chapter of world history. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what you think was the most important factor in Japan's rapid rise. See you in the next video.